Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to a special time today of 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for letting me adjust my time as needed. Happy Friday. I hope you're having an amazing day. I am Sarah from Texas, and this is our place to chat all the latest celebrity news, which is more like reality TV celebrity news, but that's okay. Jeff Lewis Live, Real Housewives of Orange County, and Watch What Happens Live. So much to get caught up on. It is my kids' fall break, so we've been a little bit extra busy. So we are also helping out a friend with her 4 weenie dogs. So I'm on a time crunch to get to her house and let those dogs out because trust me, they're tiny, but they have 0 bladders. So I've got to get them their treats and outside to go potty. So thank you for again. Let me change up the time every once in a while as needed. Okay, let's get into it. Hello, Yvonne. How are you? Okay, like I said, we've got some reality TV news to cover, but this one is a TikTok coverage, sort of. So I first heard of this guy right before Hurricane Milton, and all the news and TikToks and accounts and people and coverage. I got sucked into watching it. This Lieutenant Dan, I don't know. I feel like he has a history of being on TikToks or being interviewed. Maybe he has his own TikTok account. I'm not even real sure. But it's a guy that lives on a boat in Tampa area, I think. He did not leave his boat, and he was not planning to leave his boat during Hurricane Milton, which was, of course, alarming a lot of people because it was supposed to be a Category 5 headed straight for Tampa. Obviously, that changed. Thankfully, for many, it was less devastating as planned, but it was still very devastating. Anyways, he sort of became famous, and then there was these people trying to interview him. So, Nat, who is on TikTok and Instagram, she always does great deep dives. She's been covering this, and she was also covering how this one account, who I guess is a TikTok influencer or a Kick, which is another like a live streaming type, that is mostly gaming and gamers, but they do go live streaming of other sorts. So he had offered Lieutenant Dan, people were offering him money and all sorts of things. I guess thinking, or maybe he is, I'm not sure, needing money, lives on a boat. I'm not really sure. And if his nickname is Lieutenant Dan, was he in the military? Was he a lieutenant? Anyways, he had this Kick deal. Then they offered it somebody else, which was like $100,000 if he stayed on the boat. It was a lot. So, Nat has been covering this better, but basically I woke up to news that Lieutenant, because then something came out the other day that he had a history, like a rap sheet, and it might have been violent stuff. So then people were kind of like, oh, maybe he's not such a good guy. And he was like, yeah, I do have a rap sheet. Like maybe they should have looked into that at first, Don't know the real story, but whatever it is, the boat is gone. So maybe it's been impounded or whatever it's called. He is in jail. This one TikTok guy was trying to go get him out of jail. I don't even think they're letting him out of jail. So I don't know what he was even arrested for. But it seems like such a mess. But it just seems like he had hundreds of thousands of dollars just taken away from him. I don't really know what he did to get arrested either. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of a developing story. Something else is developing is Kristen Cavallari was dating, so she was married to Jay Cutler, ex-NFL guy, super cute, super hunky. They have like 3 kids together. She would post a picture of his cute butt when they were on vacation. Very handsome dude. So they divorced. She was dating that super young guy, like 22, 23. Feel like he's part of that country, those TikToker guys that were like doing country dances. He was one of the 2 or 3. I don't remember his name, but he was on Watch What Happens Live one time. And all anyone knows him from is, maybe that, but definitely they know him as the young guy that was dating the gorgeous cougar, Kristen Cavallari. So she recently went on her podcast and said that she had broken things off for him. Basically, it was for the best. He was the best boyfriend she'd ever had, but she knew that over time, it wouldn't be the right relationship for either one of them. I don't listen to her podcast, but I feel like she has alluded to the fact that, or said straight out, that the custody arrangements with her ex had changed, where maybe the kids were always with her, or more with her or weren't seeing the ex. Like, does that sound familiar to anyone? I feel like I definitely heard that. So now we know that last night in Tennessee, he got into a wreck. He bumped somebody from behind, tried to pay them $2,000 to not call the police or call insurance. Apparently, the police came, realized he was stumbling, that he was drunk. He got arrested for that and 2 or 3 other things. The picture is awful. He looks 40 years older than he is. So I'm really concerned for him, but it does make me feel like there's a bigger issue. This wasn't a one-time thing, like, no offense, but coming home from a bar, making a bad decision, right? It looks like he's kind of going through some things. So prayers for him. Jim Bellino, Jimmy B, whatever, he is going through it too with Elizabeth Vargas, trying to hoax him, trying to make something out of something that's not there. So as you know, yesterday we were live and y'all were telling me that Jim Bellino, it had come out that he was dating ex Real Housewives of Orange County, one season star, whatever she was, Elizabeth Vargas. And I'm like, OMG, like, that's crazy. It sounded super, super thirsty. But also, I told you, I'm going to text my friend, the Sarah Fraser Show, because she just did an interview with Jimmy B. And I'm like, why wouldn't he tell her this blazing news, right? And the very next day it comes out. Then we know, I'm getting texts from y'all that Kelly and Rick did a quick Instagram or a live or a Patreon emergency something. They have buddied up with Jimmy B over the last few months. He's been on their podcast a couple of times, right? Did these Patreons with him. She used to be friendly with Elizabeth Vargas, borrowed some space to store some stuff. Things went awry. They are definitely not friends anymore. So she definitely wanted to get to the bottom of this. And she came out and said, they are not dating. I've confirmed it, he said. Then the Sarah Fraser Show put out a video saying, look, I confirmed it with him. He is not dating her. They do have this picture, and his arm is around her at her lower waist, which, look at the quiet woman. If you are going on a date, I have been to the Quiet Woman once on a blazing fun, I think it was 4 or 5 of us, maybe 4 girls. So fun. It is not like a restaurant. They had a live band. It's like a mini club in there. And then there's like restaurant, you know what I mean? So fun, but it is definitely a place to be seen. I mean, we only went to the Quiet Woman because Shannon Bedore freaking made it famous with her fight with Kelly Dodd, right? So these OC people know exactly what they're doing when they go on a date to the Quiet Woman. And then she took a picture with him, and then she was posting. And apparently she asked him for a second date, and he was like, hell to the no once this all came out. You know what I mean? What are y'all's thoughts on this? Y'all are being so quiet. Are we now feeling sorry for Jimmy B? Like, what is going on? Did they both have this quiet agreement to give themselves some, story time by the fan accounts and the bloggers and stuff? Or was this all, I don't know. If you're going, even on a date, do you put your arm around the person the first time? Or was he upset? If you're going to the quiet, never mind. I'm like defending Jimmy B for some reason. But if you go to the Quiet Woman, you are not trying to be shy about your first date. The workers are going to see you. Other fans are going to be there. You're going to recognize them and you're going to take a picture. But I think the story I'm being told is that she threw it out there that they were dating. Is one date dating, by the way? So confused. Shout out Tiffany Chump and Dory and Michelle and Mel. How are you? I don't know. Yvonne Gal says, I don't think Jim Bellino would ever come back to reality TV, but he's gone on these multiple podcasts. Like, he's gone on, he's not just friends with Kelly and Rick Leventhal. He is going on their podcast. He is going on their Patreon. He went on the Sarah Fraser Show. I don't know if he's gone on any others, but is anyone else asking him, Oh, yeah. Michelle says, I think she gave it to TMZ. Exactly. So TMZ broke the news, and then, they can't always get it right, which if she's the source saying that they're dating, why would they not believe her, right? I mean, she is definitely when she came on, was it episode 1 of Real Housewives of Orange County this year? And they were showing her house that she let the girls have a girls' weekend or a girls' night at. She definitely wants to come back. Like, she would definitely do it. You know what I mean? Yes. Tiffany Chump says he's also putting himself out there on podcasts. Seems a little thirsty to me. Oh, no way. Dory says maybe he didn't know she was a housewife. I mean, first of all, Kelly Dodd was probably livid. Like, Jim, you should have called me. Don't go out with her. She's a rat. I mean, I can just hear Kelly Dodd like blasting Elizabeth Vargas. So I would love to hear if anyone ever hears Elizabeth Vargas's response, tag me in it. I definitely want to hear what that is. Okay, on sad news, and this reminded me that I don't think I've seen an update from Whitney Rose about her 14-year-old daughter going in the hospital for like asthma a couple of weeks ago. So if anyone has an update on that, let me know for sure. But PK and Dorit, I know that PK put out something. I don't know that does Dorit have me blocked? She might have me blocked for all we know. Who knows? But PK definitely put out a story. Oh, she doesn't have me blocked. Yay. She did not put out a post that that their son Jagger, who's 10 years old. Can you believe Jagger is 10 years old? Remember when he was like, was he not speaking or something? And all of a sudden she got him in speech and he just started blossoming. I mean, he's just a whole different kid now at 10 years old. But this big PK put out this big long thing and said that, he's been in the hospital for a few weeks. He's unwell. That's all they said. That's a long time. But he put some like Rocky music behind it, saying that he's our hero, which was cute. But when I reshared the story, like this Rocky music starts blaring as if it's like a good thing that your kid's in the hospital. And I was like, look. This is not my music. Like, I didn't put this music. This is Dad's music. This is PK's music. So anyway, it's sweet. I get the Rocky reference. I mean, you are a hero. Any 10-year-old that's been poked and prodded and sitting in a hospital for weeks on end. So all the prayers to them. But he did give a lot of credit to his separated wife, or whatever you want to call it, Dorit, that they both been spending all their time with their son in the hospital. So prayers that he is okay. Okay, let's get into last night's Real Housewives of Orange County. No, he's not unwell. His 10-year-old son is. Dory says, no surprise that PK is unwell. He's a diabetic who takes zero care of himself. Plus he smokes constantly. No, I mean, I don't know that about him, but he also became sober. So in the last, 8 months, maybe? Anyways, okay. Real Housewives of Orange County, season 18, episode 15. Whoa. I mean, they're still on Shannon's birthday trip in London, which is becoming, Tamra, if that was her plan, was to ruin her birthday, like Shannon said in one of the confessionals, she fumbled the words, but she was like, she's doing it basically, whatever. So Shannon comes out with these handwritten receipts, which was so funny to me because I love a handwritten note. Now, today I was about running a bunch of errands and not even errands. I was hanging out with my kid, but I took notes on my phone. So I was so techie, like taking notes on my phone whenever I got home and I was listening to part of it. But it's because I didn't have my pen and paper with me. I thought it was so funny though. But Heather Dubrow and Emily start laughing so hard and like snorting and just couldn't catch their breath. I think Shannon was so mad. First of all, the fact that she has these notes with her, I'm assuming since she flew them to London for this girls' trip for her birthday, that she had planned on showing someone, or in her spare time at night when everyone goes to their beds, she is going through her credit card bills, finding all the receipts for things. So don't get it lost, because it was kind of a funny scene that they were laughing, like, don't you know Excel? And she's like, well, I don't have Excel on my computer. And she's like, but also I don't know how to add in, I don't know how to work Excel. And I'm like, honey, like, totally get it. Like, computer stuff is just far beyond me. I'm just of that age. And I did have to work in Excel at my first job out of college for 7.5 years in TV, sports television. But I knew how to work within it. Like the template was there, and I just edited it every Friday or all week long, as I had to put out this report to everyone. So anyways, it was interesting though, but she does say, don't get it lost, that she, in like the first few months, she spent like $60,000 on him. So even though she's talking about these trips, she's like, well, this was 4 trips. So I don't know, is she counting her? Is she counting her daughters? Is she counting his children or child? I don't know. To me, if you go on a trip and say 3 of the 5 people are from you and your family, I mean, I hope she's only adding up what she paid for him and maybe his kid or whoever else, right? She can't be adding up the whole trip and saying, I paid for this. I mean, you got to pay for your own part anyway. So who knows what it was? I don't have the financial, printout or the written receipt. You know what I mean? Yeah, they were really, I almost wonder if they were drinking. Yvonne Gal says, I thought the laughter was too much. Okay, it's cute, but not that funny. When you get the giggles though, and you're laughing with someone and the other person just doesn't get it, it's almost even more funny. I feel like that's what it ended up being. But knowing that Shannon was talking about something so serious as being sued by an ex-boyfriend who's dating a new cast member on the show, and they're both suing. I mean, it was a bit much. It's her birthday freaking vacation weekend in London too. So it was a lot. It was a lot. We'll chat more about that because I have definitely thoughts on something else that happened in it too. Okay, so Heather Dubrow she had a moment. I mean, she gets into a fight on the double-decker bus with Emily, and I mean, her name is called out for Jen Pedrante's $2,000 lemon dress. Now, when I saw this lemon dress, for all I knew, it was an $89 dress from TJ Maxx. Had no idea. Don't know the brand, didn't know any of it. The thing is, she's bitching and moaning, and I loved her. I did. I have to give her credit. I definitely liked her better. She definitely explained herself better on Jeff Lewis Live the couple times she's been on. But in this moment, which is probably March, this is March of this year when they're filming this in real time, because it was, Shannon's March 24th birthday. She shows up in this $2,000 lemon designer dress, and she's complaining, look, I only get $6,000 a month. I don't have enough. My dad's having to pay back this loan on the rent. My ex-husband is not giving me child support. He's not giving me spousal support. He didn't give me the money for the house yet. You ain't rich, honey. A $2,000 dress to wear to a birthday luncheon? Like, I guess it hit me when she herself admitted that last season, her first season on the show, she got caught up, which I understand. She got caught up in trying to look and act as if she had more money than she did. And she was buying and wearing all of this fake purses and designer stuff, which tells me, why are you on the show? I mean, I definitely feel like OC has the least amount of money. And also, not to dog Shannon, but they really came at her for saying she's always had money problems. And that's what I always say is, well, not me. Dr. Phil always says, you can't fix money problems with money. That doesn't matter how much money you have. Whether you're making $40,000 a year or whether you're making $1 million a year. It's just the difference in money, right? If you cannot spend money, if you cannot be financially responsible, if you can't halt your spending the second something happens for whatever reason and get that under control, you're not going to be able to do that as a $40,000 salaried person or as $1 million salaried person. So I do agree that in some cases, giving people money to fix their money problems does not help it at all. So I did realize that maybe Shannon absolutely is admitting this is a loan. She uses the word loan last night. Heather Dubrow calls her on it, says, look, you just called it a loan. I feel like just admit you got in over your head, or you've always been in over your head since the divorce, maybe. And, you're trying to maintain the lifestyle for you and your 3 daughters that y'all once had, but you don't have that income anymore. And you haven't made other income enough to support, and you haven't lowered your lifestyle. So that kind of made me sad for sure. Christina says there's nothing funnier than the church giggles. No matter how hard you try to stop, you laugh harder. And that's when the snorts come. I mean, that's the best. And when you TT a little bit, I mean, I'm just saying that's just the best. I didn't understand it all, but tell me, did it come off as judgy, or did it come off as concern? Because they also asked this as a poll on Watch What Happens Live, because Gina was on. So Shannon, this is the part I don't like. Another part I didn't like. It is her birthday weekend. They're all standing around. Everyone is either married or in a very serious relationship. Shannon is not. And not only is she not in a relationship, she always wants to be in a relationship. She thought John Jansen was her soulmate, the guy of her dreams. She had been divorced from David Bedour for a long time. He was cheating. They weren't even sleeping in the same bed. I don't know how long that marriage was on the rocks, but it wasn't just a short while. It was not a great marriage. Marriage, not wedding. It was not a great marriage from the get-go. But somebody, Gina, who was it? Emily? Somebody says, let's text our men this naughty text and see what they respond. We have to read out loud what they respond, which was really funny. But they do this in front of Shannon, who is clearly just sitting there sulking, understandably, as they all go on and tell all these. It's almost like, oh, tell me what your man got you for Valentine's. You go first. And they all say and Shannon's just sitting there like nothing. You know what I mean? Yvonne Gal says that Heather was being shady. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Heather has so much money. I don't think she gives a shit about if Jen Pedranti really has money or not. But it's kind of one of those things when you've got a friend bitching and moaning about money all the time, and then they walk up in a $2,000 dress at a birthday lunch. Like, it wasn't a dress. It's one thing if it was a $2,000 dress that some designer said, oh, let me loan this to you. That's completely different. She literally bought this dress and then doesn't deny that Ryan bought it. Also, there's questions about, what is Ryan's job? What is he? How much money does he have? Is his stuff on the up and up? Is he legal? Like, and also what I do think Heather cares about, and all of them, not all of them, I think most of them care about if anyone is so reliant on a man, which Jen is, and her 5 children, that she's not digging herself out of this hole and rising herself up. She's just happy to be getting the $2,000 dress. Instead, I would be like, let me buy a $150 dress from TJ Maxx that's really worth $280. Still looks nice, whatever. No one's looking to Jen Pedranti for style or richness or designer. You know what I mean? Like, no one's looking for that. And then put the $1,800 in her bank account to put towards some bills of the freaking house of her 5 children that are living there. Okay. Sorry. Y'all aren't being very chatty today. What's going on? Are y'all actually working? Are y'all chumps at work today? Oh my gosh. Okay, what else? Shannon had found this text of Tamra's where she was saying that she was doing a background check on Ryan. That is literally what she says. She tells Jen about it. Jen is hot. I mean, it was just like the best, not even comeback. I mean, she was hot to trot on Tamra. She just blazed into that glam room, and Tamra's all like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, oh, no. Turn the blow dryer off. I got things to say. Tamra immediately denies it. It's like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. I would swear on my children's lives. She's like, I did not do a background search. in a background check. And then she's like, I saw it. Well, who showed you? Doesn't matter. I saw it. And she's like, yeah, but, and then she says, oh, well, that wasn't a background check. I just asked my real estate friend if he was a mortgage broker or not, if he had his mortgage license. She never apologizes. She never says, oh, I forgot or I was wrong. She is denying it and literally on her kids' lives, like literally so freaking gross. And then she's like, I wanted to kick her in the ass and be like, get out of here, you biatch. Like, seriously. Yes, Mary said, if I had a body like Jen, I would buy off the rack and she would look like $1 million and I would brag about it. Yeah. I mean, she's got a great body. She can definitely, I mean, $150 dress at TJ Maxx is still a very stylish, fancy dress, in my opinion. Krista says it's 8:30 p.m. and Friday night here in the UK. Cheers. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, Yvonne Gal says, did y'all notice how many times Tamra literally had her mouth open? It's such a gross scene. I did make a video of it if you haven't seen it, but you got to go back and watch that. She really came at her. She finally admits it. She doesn't really apologize. She just says, it wasn't a background check. She was just checking it. She's like, but why? Don't check into my shit. I'm not looking into you. Like, my kids are fine. I'm good. I'm living with Ryan. Don't worry about me. Like, you're not paying my bills. She's just being shady, which I get it. She was texting to, I don't know. It's a fine line. You know why? Because Tamra has effed over Shannon so much and so many times. When Shannon saw this proof, hey, Tamra chats about everyone. She is dogging everyone behind your back. So she ain't nobody's real friend. So for you to think she's your real friend and you're like pushing on me, no. So here's the proof of Shannon, of Tamra doing this to you, Jen. So Jen really held herself. At the end, she yells at her. She's like, leave me alone, and like walks out of the whatever. It was really good. Yes. Tiffany Chump says, I felt like a proud mama bear. Yes, weren't we all like, I mean, if anything, I wanted to clap sincerely for Jen. I was like, wow, like you really got, she just finally got fed up with being like the wool pulled over her eyes by Tamra, right? I think she's always, every scenario that she's complained about, Tamra has made it seem like she's a good friend to Jen and that other people are proving to her she's not on your side. She is dogging you every chance that she can get. You know what I mean? Thank you, Sephora. She says, I'm the number 15 like of the thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you, Sephora, asking everyone to hit the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Yvonne Gal says, yes, I was talking to the TV for sure. I was like, oh my God, my husband walked in and I was just like, I didn't even talk. I was just like watching the TV like, oh my God. He turned back and looked at the TV and he's like, oh, another fight on Beverly Hills or on Orange County. Okay, on Watch What Happens Live was Gina and Donnie Wahlberg. He is, if Jenny, what's her last name? Jenny, whatever Wahlberg and Donnie Wahlberg ever divorced, I'm going to be so upset because he is such a dreamboat. She is such a doll. Like, they seem so in love. I loved it. Gina was super sweet. Looked really good. Travis and her are still together because Travis was with her, but he was backstage. They did a bunch of polls at the beginning. Tamra was obliterated. I mean, 98% to like 2. And I was like, oh, that's like Eddie and Sophia, like, you know, voting in the polls, or maybe Tamra herself. Denise Richards was a surprise. She came out and she did look beautiful. She is in New York City at Comic-Con. So it's interesting. Like I told y'all the other day, I had to explain to a friend at dinner, like what BravoCon was. And I was like, well, I was like, have you ever heard? And she didn't even know Bravo channel, but I was like, I said, there's a thing called Comic-Con. I explained it because I thought it was comic books, Comic-Con. I thought it was comic books and things like that. Maybe it started out that way, but clearly it's turned into like movies and like pop culture things because she was probably there for the movie she's in. Clearly she wasn't there for Beverly Hills. What's the movie where she's the lesbian and she kisses and comes out of the water? like pushes her hair back, whatever. And that's what Denise Richards, she's known as a sexy, icon, whatever. So she was probably there for that. Wait, what? Wait, what? Yvonne Gal, did y'all see anything about Gina pushing Travis down the stairs? Did Tamra say that? Not that I remember. Like, what? Yeah, Tiffany Trump says Tamra wanted to be back on TV so bad. She made sure she came back as the villain, and she's already having a mental breakdown. It doesn't always pay to be so mean. And she's all self-righteous. Yes, wild things. Thank you, Christina. She's so self-righteous though about like, I put all my money in retirement. I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't think she'd make a good financial decision if it wasn't for Eddie. I feel like Eddie's the best financial decision maker in that thing. Anyways, Denise Richards comes on. She kind of does a few things, but they play a truth or drink fun game. And they asked Denise, which marriage were you more surprised to see fail? Kyle and Mauricio or Dorit and PK? And she had to think about it for a second. And that made me think all these ladies knew that stuff was going on with PK and Dorit for longer than they ever let out. So as we know now, Jeff Lewis blurted out that he has a close personal friend that either knows or saw PK, basically proved that he was living at the Beverly Hills Hotel, I think it was, for months. So he knew that they were separated for a long time. So, but also if you're staying at a very popular, trendy hotel like that, and you were PK from a popular Real Housewives of Beverly Hills show, the rumor's going to get out. I mean, there's no way. It's like, he's famous and he's staying at a hotel. It's like, you're married with 2 kids. Like, why are you at this hotel living here? So that was interesting that she said that she was least surprised by Dorit and PK splitting up. So that was very, very interesting. It is episode 15, but I think there's 17 episodes, so 2 more. There's 3 episodes of the reunion, and then when Andy said, it feels like I just saw you, Gina, because we saw each other at the reunion. She said, yes, that was the first reunion where I left and felt like everything went well. So I'm like, does that mean it's going to be boring? Like, why give it 3? I don't know. I want it to be like a trash show. And then I want everyone to resolve and like kumbaya, go to dinner, have an orange, shot or something. You know what I mean? I never watched the previews. Candace said, I'm usually done with the show and I'm in such a rush to do something else, get back to life. But Candace says next week's episode preview is something about Gina pushing Travis down the stairs. Wow, that's crazy. Jordy, I don't watch the previews, but I also don't like it to ruin it for me, because then I start thinking I've already seen it, whenever the scene shows. Jordy says, did you see Kelly Dodd said today she's going to try to get on the new Flipping Out show with her new house? Oh, that wouldn't shock me at all. Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. Which means she's already in talks to do that, because they're probably already filming it. And it's close, somewhat close. Jeff has been going down to see his dad, his grandpa, Monroe's grandpa, and Claudia a lot more lately. So yeah, maybe that's kind of pre-talks, and seeing the house and that kind of thing. I also think something's going on in Dallas, because he did stay 3 times now, 3 days instead of 2 last time. So I asked, Sephora's the one that asked about it. Awesome. You asked Kelly and Rick about the Jeff Lewis new show. Is she doing Instagram lives more and more? Which also makes me think she's gearing up for, you know what I mean? The Instagram live of it all, like, let me do more and more content. She didn't used to do Instagram lives a lot. I mean, she has, and she's done rants, you know what I mean, on her Instagram stories, but yeah. Oh, that's true. Christina says, especially if Boy George keeps walking through the lobby to go see PK. I mean, yeah, that's not subtle at all, right? Well, and Boy George lived in their house, right? Their guest house. So, oh goodness. Yes. Mama Judy said, Tamra's actions were dreadful. I mean, she got a full of it on from Jen Pedranti though. So I was pretty excited for that. I was hoping somebody would call in now again on the app. Okay, this is my admission. We're about to chat Jeff Lewis Live and Jeff Lewis Extended, which will be the last day because now starting Monday, I think we're just going to call it Jeff Lewis Live, 2 hours. We'll chat about it. He gave us more and more news today. Okay, so today I was out and about, but I was listening to my AirPod when I could, and I tried to fast forward the commercials. It usually lets you fast forward like 5 or 6 times, like a 30-second or minute at a time. Well, and then it'll say you've hit your limit. And it goes through all the commercials. Instead, it was the second commercial break, and then it just went to 58 minutes in. It was like, next on Jeff Lewis Extended. And I'm like, God dang it. And once you mess up, there ain't no going back. So I did miss the last, you're so sweet. That doesn't make her happy. What do you mean in comments? What do you mean? Sephora says, I advertise your show on their show. Oopsie. Thank you. I love that. So I missed the last commercial break. I missed the information after the last commercial break of Jeff Lewis Live today. So if I missed anything, let me know for sure. But that's what I did to mess that up. Michelle says, love that we need just it called the same. I hope they film extended or the second hour of live. Yes, that's what I was going to say, Michelle. Somebody DM me or post in the Facebook group, I can't remember which, saying, I hope they just keep recording the next 2 hours. I'm assuming they will. I'm assuming they will. Like, why would they not? I was hoping somebody would call in and ask that, but I don't know. They had so many good callers today for sure. I know, Michelle says, sorry, I'm at work trying to multitask. I'm a chump. Leave me alone. Exactly. You have a cocktail, Michelle? No, I'm kidding. You're grooming dogs. You better not have a cocktail, right? Okay, today was Reza and Ali Landry. Really good combo. It starts off, though, Jeff was kind of ramming Jameson in the arse, saying that it's a bad look to bash, or Jameson was telling Jeff, let's just agree all the drama from yesterday with you having people call in and like tell us the DJs on Sirius XM that you can't stand. I mean, he's in the middle. He was told by Patrick and Cole that he can't have any feuds like for the next 30 to 45 days. And, Jameson was so nervous about that. First of all, Jameson is so friendly. I've met him so many times. He really is a kind soul, but also very rule following and very by the book. So I think it's hard when he sees and experiences as the producer things that he knows is good for Jeff's show, but things are bad for Jeff as an employee. And things that he maybe doesn't want to sit around and be observant about, and maybe it looking like he is in agreement with it when he is absolutely not. So, wait, what happened? Tiffany Chump says, how do we feel about him being so unprofessional in the beginning of the show when that's something that he can say off the air? That's what I was going to talk about, is he could have very much, there's been a couple of things with Jameson, not the apologies, but the things, even remember a few weeks ago where he was really bashing. Apparently he's got 3 people that do research on the guests. Shane must be one of them, Jameson, and maybe Oscar, maybe someone else. I'm not really sure. But Jameson was just dead quiet. Jameson was I'm not taking. Jameson seems to be able to really hold his own with Jeff. I think he can I think Jeff can ruffle his feathers, but I think it takes a lot, because I think a lot of times, I think Jameson knows Jeff is wrong and he's just letting him you just dig your own hole, dig your own grave, if they will. You know what I mean? Tiffany Chump says, I don't like it at all. That should be done in private. But again, Jeff's whole show is things that we shouldn't know about ever. Case in point, at the very end of Jeff Lewis Extended, and he tells us that around his house, he refers to his ex Gage as coach because he feels like he's coaching their daughter. And then Monroe hears it. He says, oh, she has no idea what I'm talking about. she knows. And then she went and told Gage, and then Gage reached out to, I mean, when the doggy daycare place is, spraying their dog, and they're saying that Toby's a bad dog, and Jeff's talking about that, and naming employees' names, and naming, Sirius XM DJs that he doesn't think are good, and his whole content is telling us things that he shouldn't, right? So it's like it's like what? It's like listening like this. Like we don't want to hear it, but we act like a train wreck. Like TG, what do you call it? TGINM. Thank God it's not me that they're talking about, right? Like, thank goodness that's not my restaurant. Thank goodness he's not my neighbor. I'm not his post office guy that he's bitching about. You know what I mean? Jordy, he kind of explained that today. Jordy says, do you think the new Jeff Lewis Live will still have 4 hosts each day, or 2 hosts for all 2 hours? So he explained it today, but he said he's kind of working with the new format. Like, he's open to ideas and what works. I guess he kind of gave a lot. He kind of spilled a little bit of information throughout the 2 hours today. He mentioned there's 4 guests for every day next week that he announced. He didn't exactly say, because it's not going to be 2 shows. It's going to be 1. I think it's still going to be called Jeff Lewis Live. And then later he was very flexible about, well, if everyone's going to be paid the same. So if everyone is there at 9 for the show, they can kind of come in and mix up and what have you. So maybe they're talking about something, and they text Shane and say, oh, I got something funny to add to that. Maybe they'll call him in during the commercial break. Or he said this booker that they got. So he did get the booker as part of his deal that he wanted. He wanted the Sirius XM booker. If you just tell people you can pop in for like 5 to 20 minutes, like Dr. Laura did a few weeks ago, she ended up staying much longer and got rave reviews, and Jeff loved her, that they're going to get bigger guests, because they're going to get famous people that are like, oh, I'm already in doing Andy Cohen, or I'm in doing Howard Stern, or I'm in doing Tinks. Now I'm going to pop over to Jeff Lewis Live. And Jeff Lewis, I mean, he's got the name. Like, he is mentioned almost daily now on Watch What Happens Live, or one of the Housewives shows. So, with Bravo coming out, that was all over the news yesterday. Apparently, he wasn't supposed to officially announce that the contract was done and will start on Monday. Apparently, it was supposed to be announced on Monday. And Tim Johnston, or whatever his real name is, was messaging him going, did you not understand the announcement plan? And he was like, apparently not. I know Krista says, I can't subscribe to Jeff's show. I even subscribed to a VPN, but it still didn't work. So sad. And maybe that's something they'll fix. I would you can't call into the show. Can you call in if you live out of the country? Like, what would that? Because it's like is it an 888 number? I don't even know. I'd have to look on my phone. I've got the Radio Andy number in here, even though I don't call very much. Radio Andy, 844-305-2639. Y'all probably know that. I don't even know that. Anyways, I would, or send them a DM and say, hey, is any of that going to change where Sirius XM is going to be worldwide? Because there's so many people that rely on that, copyright infringement on YouTube, or they listen to me. Thank goodness. Thank you, to get the Jeff Lewis content, but they want to pay. They're missing out on so much money. So I don't understand why they can't. Jordy says, if they have all 4 there, then there really isn't room for Shane on the mic too, like physically in that studio. They need to figure out the logistics. I don't think they'll be all in at the same time. I do think they will come and go. But it won't necessarily be, in 1 hour, it's 2 people. And maybe some days it will. In the next hour, it's these 2 people. It might be you're here for 40 minutes, you're here for 20 minutes, somebody else is. I think it's going to be 2-ish at a time, plus Shane and Jeff. And then obviously we know Oscar talks sometimes. We know that Jameson talks sometimes. So, but I think it's something that can be flexible. I think he's more open to. He probably got some good coin. I mean, even Reza was like, I smell the money. Like I smell the dollar bills. he's not bitching and moaning about it, let's just say, okay? So I think he got a good deal, and I feel like he is in a mood to be a little more submissive and not have the HR violations and write-ups that he talked about today. I don't know. Oh, I think so. Mama Judy says, I wonder if Tamra will be asked back. I think so, because he very much didn't seem mad at her. He didn't say that she was on pause. He just said he thinks she's having to cancel because just to kind of give herself a breather from all of it. You know what I mean? Yes, she did cancel, but he talked about that, Christina, yesterday, and pretty much gave her an out. You know what I mean? He was like, I kind of understand it. So Tamara was supposed to be on the radio next week, but canceled. Yeah, I think the 21st or something. Which is funny because now it's going to be wait, is that the 21st? Today's the 18th, 19th, 20, 21st. Yeah. Instead, it's going to be Rick and Kelly. So they're like the replacement for her. There's a lot going on. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good question. Laura says, I wonder if he'll keep having 4 guests moving forward. I'm guessing next week's guests were already booked before the contract. Yeah. I'm assuming I think they're booking weeks out now. So I think they probably did just book as normal. And then, but I think he's open, just like Jeff Lewis After Hours or whatever they called it. Now it's called Jeff Lewis Extended. I think he's far more flexible to just go with the flow. And I think hopefully he's trusting SiriusXM that they know what they're doing too with, guests and things like that. Jet says, I think though for advertising and scheduling purposes, they really have to lock in a format because it can't just be an inconsistent free-for-all, unorganized 2 hours. They have to plan it. I mean, I do think they plan, but everything is so in real time with Jeff that if, something comes up during the morning or something is said at the dinner the night before, if he goes on a date, if he gets a text live during the commercial break. So I think a lot of it is on the fly, and I kind of like that. So I think he always if you see him during the Jeff Lewis video, he's left-handed. You'll see him like scratch out things. He's literally, he's like me. He's got little paper note, or he's probably typed out by Shane. But he's literally scratching out what he's already talked about. But I think he does change things up as it comes up too. Anyways, one thing that Jeff wasn't happy about, and this is the part I didn't love, because I thought that Jameson held his own at the beginning, saying, let's just agree it's a bad look for us to encourage callers to call in and bash our SiriusXM DJs. But Jeff held his own, saying, but I don't want calls screened and I don't want calls hidden from me. Like, I still want, you could kind of tell they were doing that yesterday, and he was getting pissed because he was like, wait, where did that call go? You can tell whoever was screening the calls was writing the little one sentence like, Ryan from Michigan wants to talk about a cat story. Elizabeth from New Jersey wants to talk about her favorite DJ that she hates. You know what I mean? So he can decide to take that call or not, but he doesn't want them. He called it the board operators, which is kind of a put down because they're way more than just a board operator, but hiding those calls and basically producing the show for him, like taking that away from him. You know what I mean? I don't know. Everyone tells me Sirius is in debt. I don't know anything about SiriusXM. I don't read the business news, but Jet says SiriusXM has big cash behind it though. Like, it's not like YouTube. So the stakes are quite high for ratings and consistency. But they just got Alex, what's her name, from Call Her Daddy. They gave her a lot of money. The word on the street was the reason that Amy Phillips left was because of her contract not being renewed or not being, up to par or whatever. So Michael Beck called in and sort of apologized, but absolutely didn't. Even made a joke about him being on the spectrum. But basically, Jeff says there's whispers of an HR write-up, and he was hoping that would happen today versus Monday, because he feels like today is like the end of one contract and Monday is like his new start fresh, and he doesn't want any, blurbs on his HR, thing for that. So I don't know. They definitely talked about Shaws of Sunset, maybe a reboot. Sarah in the Sarah from Texas Facebook group, another Sarah, reminded me, I was not the biggest Shaws of Sunset person. I know enough about it. I knew that Reza and MJ were longtime friends. I knew that they were on the outs when she was pregnant. I knew he didn't come to visit her in the hospital. She had a very tumultuous delivery. He was mad at Tommy. I don't think Tommy and Reza are still friends, but Reza and MJ are. I mean, I knew all of that, but I didn't know as much icky detail as she put in the Facebook group. So it kind of reminded me how much fans are willing to forgive and forget, like the awful things that people do. I mean, look at so many people. I mean, so many people. It's just like, oh, they had such a whatever. Freaking the guy from Rust, the guy with like 7 kids, more kids than that. He's got a million, whatever his name is. He was on the phone with his daughter Ireland years ago, and he was being complete trash to her, and she recorded it and got all, I mean, he said anti-Semitic things. I mean, he's gotten in so much trouble, and yet people just forget that and like give him jobs. So, people get canceled and then they come back, right? Anyways, just like probably not the first, one huge person I remember getting canceled, and she's, I think, sort of come back though, is Kathy. What's the redhead comedian? Blondish redhead comedian. I feel like she had some neighbor dispute one time. I don't feel like she was Jeff's neighbor, right? Who is Kathy, the comedian? I know y'all will tell me because I'll remember it. I don't think so. So Tiffany Chump says, isn't that the purpose of screening calls, to weed out the ones that aren't good? No, I've never worked at a radio station, but I feel like they take all the calls, put in a blurb about what it is, and then Jeff reads them on the computer and they decide which one they're going to take. Oh, we don't want to touch that content. We don't want to touch that. Oh, this one's a dig at Zach Noe Towers. Oh, this one's a dig at what I think they pick. So what Jeff was saying is, don't screen literally the calls. Like don't not give them to me. You let me decide if I want to take that call or not. You know what I mean? Wow. Hannah says Dr. Laura said the N-word 11 times in a show back in the day. So see, you remember, people like me never heard that, or I've absolutely forgotten. I mean, I've definitely heard of Dr. Laura for decades, and I absolutely don't remember that at all. So yeah. Hannah Grace says, FYI, Sirius is on the upswing. Warren Buffett purchased 3.6 million shares on Wednesday. He now owns 30% of SiriusXM. Wow. And I don't know much about Warren Buffett, but I know, isn't he the one that's not choosing to give his children any money when he passes away because he wants them to make their own? So I respect everything about what little I know about him. HJPH says MJ is in her head a lot bigger star than in reality. Well, in the Traders really got her star power up there again. So I think, yeah, what is her name though? Kathy Griffin. Thank you. Kathy Griffin, Sephora. Kathy G is hilarious. Her life on the D list and specials are hilarious on YouTube. I think she did a new one too, right? Yeah, AUS girl, life on the D list. Who else is that I want to watch? I want to watch I want to watch Ellen DeGeneres's, and I want to watch Heather McMahon's. There's a couple of those I want to watch. Okay, Carrie Lewis, Zach Noe Towers was on Jeff Lewis Extended. Zach Noe Towers talks about being choked out. Jeff was kind of like, oh, Shane's like, I'm not answering really. I don't know. I like when Carrie is on because they have such a history of friends, professionals. She was on Flipping Out. She's married to his brother. I mean, they just have such a history that I like when they're on. I like when she's on with Jeff, but so relatable. Tell me if you're okay being chipped, if you can get rid of the 70 passwords that are in your brain, in your phone, or written down in a password book. Or None of the above. And you guess every time and you hit create new password because you forgot it. You know what I mean? I think I'm okay being chipped. If my dog can be chipped so I can find her, which Luna is chipped, I'm even okay being with my kids chipped. I really am. I'm not that girl that's afraid of Big Brother. I feel like all the resources, all the agony of looking for people. There's a wife right now, woman from San Antonio that now we think the husband's involved because they were seen fighting physically, and she's got all this history of that, and she's missing, and he's not cooperating with the police. So true crime going on right now in San Antonio, Texas. If she was chipped, they'd go right to her body and be like, into this. Here it is. Here's the whatever. So all the kids, all the people that are anyways, we won't get into that. So I would definitely chipped. Tiffany Chump says, if it wasn't for face recognition, I don't know what I'd do with my password. I definitely have that on my phone. I'm like, it better work all the time for sure. Yes. AUS Fly Girl says, Kathy Griffin did have a fallout with Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper. And that was all because she used to host that New Year's Eve. I mean, it's a job. Would I be happy if someone took my job away? No, but in that business, it is what it is, right? I mean, it's for sure. I saw Fortune live, flew to California to see her with some chumpettes. We had fun. I watched one special and loved it. I watched the other one and didn't love it. So I don't remember which one I liked, but it was about her bathing suit and on swim team as a kid. It was cute. Candace says, we have to talk about Sam getting fired and learned today that Jeff asked him to cut his hair. Wait, when was that said? See, I didn't hear that at all. Was that said at the end of Jeff Lewis Live, or do you know? Because remember, I missed the last after the commercial breaks. I have to listen to it later tonight when I get a chance. Got to go take care of these dogs soon. These 4 wiener dogs that we're helping out with a friend. Okay, real quick. These 2 fans that were offended by Zach Noe Towers. I agree. I mean, God bless you that you got dressed up, spent the money, came to his show, front row. I don't think he meant any harm. He is so nice, what I know of him. And I feel like he's very hurt that they, confronted him and said, look, you've lost some fans. We were so embarrassed that you did this. But when you're on the front row of a comedy show, like, I don't even want front row because I don't want them looking at me and saying something like that. I'd rather be back just a little bit. Plus, I don't feel like you can see him as well. You know what I mean? But I think they thought, oh, we're treating ourselves to front row. Maybe her and the husband really didn't know that they could be part of the fodder whenever, they were just sitting there probably stunned by some of his jokes. Cause he's, a little bit. Yes. AUS Fly Girl says, well, Kathy Griffin got canceled with her photo shoot with the Trump head. Not a good business move. Anderson and Andy were mad. The network fired her from the New Year's Eve hosting and Andy got the job. Anyways, I don't think they'd have been mad about that. It was Trump. I mean, I think they would think that was funny. Yes, Jet says, yeah, I don't want to be in the front row anywhere because I don't want to be that personally involved. I mean, yeah, especially at a comedy show, that's kind of, you're going to, like he said, if you're on your phone, whatever. Okay. Jeff calling Gage coach at the house, and Monroe, he says she doesn't know what it means. I think anyone can figure out it's a derogatory thing. So when he says, I don't say anything about Monroe, I don't put those thoughts. And, he said a few things that he says at the house that, but he's also supposed to not be having any big feuds right now. And I'm like, dude, that is not making Gage happy, like, at all. Deja Monet says, I feel awful for the women, but that's what happens at a comedy show. I agree with Jeff. Something else was going on. Yeah, it wasn't about them for sure. Yeah, for sure. Anyways, well, have a fabulous weekend. I will see y'all on Monday at I think so, at the regular time. I got to see what, sometimes, like, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday that was virtual. She finally did show up, my doctor, and it was great. I'm on some antibiotic now that's going to turn my pee orange or yellow. And she's like, have you had any burning or itching or going to the bathroom a lot? I'm like, no, but also my doctor's appointment was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, that blood work is probably old. Like, if I had any she mentioned bladder infection. I'm like, I feel nothing down there, nothing abnormal. Whatever. I went and picked up a prescription for $3 that I'm on for 7 days. So, anyways, I say that to say, sometimes you have dentist appointments and orthodontist, and you can't always, I'm trying to plan it, but sometimes I do have to change. But I think all next week will be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I will see you there. Thank you for joining live. If you're listening as a replay, shout out. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and make a comment. Even if you say, first time I've made a comment from Arizona, I would really, really appreciate it. All helps with the engagement. Okay. Bye, Chumpats. Adore you.